Welcome to Bill Faeth Unfiltered, where we give you actionable episodes without the bullshit. Here is your host, Bill Faeth.
Hey, welcome back to Bill Faeth Unfiltered. We've got a great topic that we're going to discuss that affects all of you guys. It's the hidden costs of short-term rentals.
Yeah, Bill, what are the hidden costs of short-term rentals?
What do you think they are, Chris? As a non-investor, what do you think the number one thing that people don't think about when they are making the investment? It never shows up on their pro forma.
I'm going to go with the actual costs from the date they close to the date that they launch, and the carry costs during that time period that they don't factor in, that they have to spend before they actually start making money with their short-term rental.
So myself and the super team have been talking about that for over 2.5 years, 3 years now. So hopefully people are getting that, but you're correct. A lot of people do not factor in the carry costs. Look, I'm making a huge reposition right now because of the carry costs in a property, right? But what I was looking for was travel expense. So there's a lot of these that we're going to go over that people don't factor in, and you never see a line on the pro forma for travel expense. So most people are investing out of their home markets, right? I mean, we've been in Whitefish, Montana for the last 2 weeks. It's expensive to get there. So, I mean, just so I'm closing in Panama City Beach next week. Bria's going to have to fly down there. We have to check out the property, get ready for design, furnishings, construction by John the Bank Whisperer Hodge. And literally just that ticket at this time of year is $328. Most likely just during the time we close till the time that we go live, what you just brought up, she will probably make that trip at least twice. So that is a $700 expense. Then there's going to be rental car, right? Then there's going to be lodging because she probably won't be able to stay. We're either going to have to rent an Airbnb from the same building or go to a hotel. There's food cost. There's a lot of things that we just don't factor in. And that kind of what you said, the carry cost, that's part of it, right? So what else happens in carry costs? I mean, I'll give you a really quick example. When I bought, what's the name of the property? Elk Lodge. I couldn't think of it for a second, which was my first property in Banner Elk, North Carolina. I'm buying in the mountains of North Carolina, and I was not a skier or a snowboarder. I didn't even anticipate snow, to be honest with you. I knew there was Beach Mountain and Sugar Mountain close by. What I didn't know was my elevation is almost at the peak of Sugar Mountain, and I did not expect snow. That first year, Chris, we had over $4,000 in snow removal costs. Well, if I was underwriting a property at $100,000, right, that is 4% of my total gross revenue. Thank God this was like a $280,000 a year property. Much easier to absorb on that mistake. But, man, Kenny Bedwell from SCR Insights, and I talk about this a lot, is people underestimate their costs when they're underwriting a property in their pro forma. And I guess, I have John, really what I used for a pro forma was the original one before everybody else started putting these calculators together. And it started with the Big Daddy from John Hodge, and then we pared it down to the Baby Daddy. And to be perfectly honest with everybody, unless I'm buying a hotel, I only use the Baby Daddy because the Big Daddy is way too complicated. Ironically, John's the Baby Daddy and I'm the Big Daddy in this relationship, right? Just if we're measuring it by height. But the reality is we should probably going to have to go back and add a couple of these columns in there so people don't forget about them. If you do want my pro forma, just go down below here in the show notes. If you're listening on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, wherever. If you're watching on YouTube, it's right down below as well. You can just click directly on that link to download the pro forma and training by John, the Bank Whisperer Hodge, and myself. And while you're doing that, don't forget to smash that subscribe button as well. So here's some of the other things that become super important. As Kenny and I review pro formas, Kenny's the property finder guy. I do a lot of property finding on my own, but I'm always running pro formas along with my super grader. And one of the things that becomes super paramount, and I don't know, Chris, in the investing group inside the inner circle, I probably get sent 5 to 15 pro formas every single week to take a look at. That's when Mindy, I love you, but that's when you're not in buying mode. Then it's like going to 20 to 30 every single week. And I review them, and the expenses are usually the things that are off. They just take their word for it on property taxes. A lot of people are just saying, oh, hey, it's According to Zillow, it says it's a 0.5% on property tax. And what they don't understand is the regulation has changed. And anytime that a house sells, it's going to be reassessed by the county assessor at current value. So you got to go in and look at the last transaction might have been $400,000, but now you're paying $750,000. Your property tax is going to increase exponentially. So too many people are making mistakes inside of their proformas based on cost. You know, what you look at an internet cost when you ask an existing homeowner, and they may be $75 a month, but they're only getting, 50 megs, and you want to go in and put in full fiber, and that could be $185 a month or $225 a month. I mean, shit, if you just go with Starlink, that runs typically about $120, $125 a month. So that could double or triple just your internet cost. So my recommendation is that you literally call the utility company, call the phone company, call the television company, call the trash company. Are you going to use a trash concierge like Can Monkey or somebody like that to take out your trash? I did not anticipate also when I went into Banner Oak that I was going to need to spend $2,700 to get a bear-proof barricade trash. I don't even know what you call it. I guess it's a barricade, right? And you put your trash cans inside of it. Well, the property is so big, I needed to have 4 96-gallon trash cans, right? So that was an expense. It was like another $4,000 or $5,000 I didn't underwrite. So here's the biggest thing that I'm gonna advise you when you invest into a new market, you need to reach out to people that already own there and ask them about the hidden costs, the gotchas, when you are in underwriting mode with your proforma. That's really the best way to come in and try to mitigate those things. It's the same thing at the beach. Look, Gulf Shores, the city of Gulf Shores, Alabama just passed some new regulation that you are not allowed to leave cans on the street after the pickup day. So a lot of the concierge companies would come back around the next morning as opposed to the evening of. So your cans would be out there for almost 24 hours. They're starting at like $500 fines. So we've had to make adjustments. We use Trash Cans Express based out of Pensacola. They've had to make adjustments so that way we don't end up getting fined. I mean, I can imagine with all the properties I have down there, if they miss a pickup, and that's actually something I requested for them to adjust my contract to where there is a penalty and they are responsible if they miss the pickup because we will get fined. There's no question. I can't put that, onto my guests. Some of the other things that happen, you think about landscaping, right? If you are not, even at a beach community, I still have landscaping costs. I mean, I just literally had Wesley, my handyman, he had to go and trim. There's weeds that come up in the sand, that type of stuff. They wrap it. If you have a pool, if they get too long, they can start wrapping around the fencing and that type of stuff. So if you want to have super properties like I have, you have to have, premium landscaping. That's one of the biggest things that I see people don't invest enough into is premium landscaping. My big Montana property, I'm selling it. I just put it under contract. And, we broke down all the costs and investments that I put into it. And I spent $37,000 in landscaping from the time that I closed until the time that I put it under contract. Those are things that make huge investments, but a lot of us don't factor that in when we are underwriting properties. Anything you got to add, Chris? What about on the marketing side? I don't see people budgeting enough for marketing. Do you?
No, never. It's all the little things, the softwares that start to add up. When you look at, what's your PMS? That's a cost. Do you have any additional price
That's one of the
labs?
reasons I love Future Stay, by the way.
Right.
Is they have, you just mentioned Price Labs, right? I mean, I love Price Labs too. I use it, but like if you have 1, 2, or 3 properties, man, Future Stay is the easy button. You already have dynamic pricing rolled in. You've got pre-built direct booking website already rolled in. That's one of the reasons for like the newbies and the smaller operators. Future Stay is the easy button for you. Just go to futurestay.com/bill, futurestay.com/bill, and literally you can get my deal that's exclusive to my community. And we'll pop a link down in the show notes for you as well. Sorry to interrupt you. Keep going,
No, you're
Chris.
fine. But that's part of it, right? You have to look at where you are, where you're trying to get to. There's softwares that scale over time, softwares that cost you per property, softwares that you need when you start, softwares that you don't necessarily need right when you start.
OwnerRes, and there's softwares that influencers use.
Yes.
Right?
1000%.
Don't just go to OwnerRes because I use OwnerRes. Right? I mean, if you are 5 properties or less, you're in that 2, 3Z range, that's 100% Future Stay for you guys. Not built for, somebody like myself by any means. I still use it for direct bookings. That's a huge part. It's the highest converting direct booking. But if you're going to go down like the Market My STR path, which everybody should, but there's a cost associated with that. You should be able to get a return based on how strong that platform is to help you with your marketing. But you've got PMSs. You have an annual fee for Ring cameras, like it's either $100 or $110 a year per property. You're going to probably the other thing is that people don't factor in the nitty gritty, right? They see the designs that Bria does for our super properties. They see Ashita, I call it the Ashita effect, and they think about murals and painting and bright furniture and blah, blah, blah. But you guys underestimate the small stuff. Like, what's your labor cost going to be inside of your design budget when you add 12 Adirondack chairs? Those things take most people like an hour to put together. What happens when you add 5 arcade one-up games? Those are the death of everybody doing an install. Ask Kim Fitzpatrick at Launched Host about that. Those small costs, Chris, those end up adding up. And almost every mistake that we see, a lot of it's financial. But here's the biggest one that I see that's not tied directly to money or finances. One of the biggest ones is design. You design for yourself as opposed to designing for photos and designing for your ideal buyer. And Chris, I won't say their names, but you and I know a couple that designed 2 properties for themselves. They're a little bit older, and both of the properties did not perform the way they wanted to because they let their emotion, their taste, come into it. So I believe in an ideal buyer. That's another huge mistake that people make is they don't understand who their ideal guest is before they buy a property and when they're designing. So understand, before I purchase a property, I know exactly who I'm going to market to. And if I'm going to market to them, I got to know exactly how I'm going to design for them. And if I'm going to design for them, I got to know how I'm going to amenity-ize for them. So before I purchase a property, I've already built out my full buyer persona, and probably less than 0.5% of you out there investing do this. This means that you take a sheet of paper and you give it a name, you give it a photo. What are the interests in that? Mine's Wealthy Wendy. What does she drink? Is she wine or whiskey? Does she, is she an avocado toast, type of person in the morning that's working out and cold plunging? Or is she literally like biscuits and gravy and, that type of stuff? You got to know, what does she drive? What are her interests? Is she a tennis person? Is she a golf person? Or is she a red hat, society type of a person? We need to know all of those things because that's all going to play into, where does she live? Does she live in the burbs or does she live, urban, right? Completely makes a difference in how they buy, where they want a vacation, what type of lifestyle they have. And you want to kind of plan your stuff out from location, property size, property design, amenities, all tied towards that ideal buyer based on building out that buyer persona.
Absolutely. I think a great way for us as we kind of are wrapping this one up is one of my favorite stories from you is the...
What do you mean fucking wrapping up? One thing in marketing, Chris, is you never prelude that you're wrapping up, right? You always have to have the abrupt end. So we're still going.
Then I want to hear one of my favorite stories, which is the yardage book for professionals of just in case you fuck up, because that's one of the most important parts of a pro forma that people don't put in those buffers, because you never know what you will start opening up walls, start changing things happen. And so I want to talk a little bit about that story. I think it's a great relationship.
And it's not even just, wall opening and design, it's time.
Oh, absolutely.
So like you talked about at the beginning of the show that, time is the biggest issue for people that they screw up. So just in case you fuck up on the PGA Tour, there's one guy that makes the yardage book. So if you watch Rory McIlroy, Tiger, whoever, you'll see they have this book, they keep it in their back pocket, they pull it out, and it's the design and layout of the entire hole, right? From trees to houses to bunkers to green to elevations. And we all go, we play practice rounds, we have our rangefinders, we're taking notes. So maybe 250 yards down in the right-hand trees, there's an acronym for just in case you fuck up, and that's JICKFU or something like that. And it would say like 52 yards to this bunker on the left side of the fairway. That's if I blow it right. I get in the trees and I just pitch it out, and I got to keep it in the fairway short of the bunker. And on every hole, depending on length, like a par 3, there isn't one, but on par 4s, there's typically one on each side. On par 5s, there might be 2 or 3 on each side based on the length. And that's because even the best in the world mess up. And those are things that we don't take into consideration. We think that, oh, here's the expenses, here's what AirDNA or SDR Insight says, I'm just going to run with that. And that's where you end up making mistakes. The just in case you fuck up is by adding 10% to your expenses and subtracting 10% from your estimated revenue. If you do that, you end up with the 20% delta in the middle. That's your safety yardage, right? That's your safety net. And if the property will still underwrite, then pull the trigger. But if it doesn't, you do not have enough cushion to make a mistake, right? Think about that. If that Banner Oak property, Chris, Elk Lodge was only $100,000 a year property, and I'm only going to net $20,000 a year, that's 20%. Most people would take that. But if I have to add that $4,000 expense, for snow plowing, now that's a $16,000, return. Is that strong enough? That's why you need to have the just in case you fuck up. So hopefully these things help you. If this has provided any value, make sure you smash that subscribe button, whether it's there. They could be anywhere based on TikTok, Instagram. But we'll see you guys on the next episode of Bill Faeth Unfiltered.